Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready.
Ready.
That was weird. That was a weird one. And today we wanted to sort of talk again, a continuing
An episode of something.
of teaching Warhammer, teaching Age of Sigmar specifically.
First you roll the dice, then you move.
So we talked about this a little bit ago, and I'll link it wherever it is.
There.
And basically, the last time we did it, Drake has a couple of friends. One's a year older than him. One's, I think, a year younger, right around that age. And so they were intrigued by all the models, right? They saw all the armies and the cool painted stuff, and they really wanted to play. And so the first time we played, we just did War Scrolls.
And we threw a whole bunch of small 500-point armies out in the game.
No, it was more than 500, but it was a small amount.
750?
And we just had people kill each other.
Yeah.
Right?
And they did it good.
Yeah, they did pretty good.
They had beginner's luck, like I do still.
So then, but more recently, they came back and they wanted to play again. So this time we did things up a little bit more.
I think we went to 1,000 this time.
We went to about 1,000 points. I created both lists so that they didn't have to worry about anything like that, right? They just got an army that they could play. But this time we put up some terrain.
Yeah.
And we added in...
I think we put up terrain last time. No?
We might have had a couple pieces, but we put a little bit more in this time, and we added in two things. And the two things that we added in are battle traits, so that each army had its battle trait.
No spells or anything.
And we added in objectives.
Yeah, we had an objective.
We had an objective. And the mission that we did is just a very, very simple one. There was one objective in the middle of the battlefield, and then whoever controlled it at the end of a round got a point. Best of 5. Right? And so it was a very, very simple to understand battle plan. It didn't add a lot of complications. There were no battle, there was no battle packs, so there's no Galatian veterans, no monsters being worth extra points, right? We're not going to worry about any of that. But it did add the battle traits, and it did add more than just killing, right? So it's not just move my forces forward, roll some dice. And they played the same army they played last time. They played Stormcast last time. They played Stormcast this time.
I played Nighthaunt.
You played Nighthaunt this time. You played Cruel Boys last time.
Yeah, and I got squished. They did really good with the Nighthaunt.
Yeah. Well, this time you won with the Nighthaunt.
Oh, yeah.
They got the first 2 points in the first 2 battle round, and you got the last 3.
Mm-hmm. I had one Spirit Torment at 1 HP left.
Yep, at the very end, it was a Spirit Torment versus a single Vindictor. And then 2 models to 1, right?
I think it was 3 Vindictors, actually. And I slaughtered them all and didn't die from it.
No, I mean at the very end. The very end. So what did you think of the game? And specifically, what did you think about it in terms of teaching your friends?
I think it worked. Because I saw from I guess they learned from the last 2 games. Because when one of their Griffhounds was at 1 HP, they held it back. They didn't throw it because I had an Arcane Bolt that I could just zap it, so it wouldn't matter. That's
true. So in this game, they had Griffhounds. I think the Griffhounds came from the Knight Judicator.
Yeah.
And so they were holding the Griffhound back because they didn't want it to die.
Yeah, so it would be worthless.
That was good. What else?
They also were good at repositioning the forces to match with the coming up.
Yeah, I think that was good too. They they're still learning the game, right? So it's not that they were masters or anything, but they did think about when to move and where to move, and they had guys come down in the lightning. And I think that having the one objective really helped with that, right?
Because it gave them something to do.
Yeah, it gave them some things to focus on and to make sure, I want to have some guys in. And also the way that we did it where it was the end of the round rather than the end of the turn.
Because the end of the turn is because if you double turn, you get 2 points.
Well, the end of the round means that whoever goes second might have a little bit more of an advantage, right? Because they can sort of see where it lies and then move their people around. So that was pretty cool. So even when Drake went first, it still gave a little bit of a bump to them. And then when they went first in the battle round, gave a little bit of a bump to Drake. So that sort of evened things out so that there was no terrible double turn situation.
Yeah.
What else? Well, let me ask you this. So they'd only played 1 game before with just War Scrolls.
I think they've done 2. Because we played 1 with Stormcast and then they've done a Nighthaunt one.
Are you sure?
Yeah. They've done 3 games.
Oh, that's true. The first time when we played just War Scrolls, we did do 2 games. That's
Although,
true.
to be fair, that the game we just played that we're talking about now is the first legal tournament game that we've played.
Well, we're not even going to worry about tournaments.
Yeah,
but
it is.
The question is, that I was going to ask is, how do you think they did with, because at first it was just War Scrolls, right? Pretty easy. How do they think they did with battle traits and objectives being layered on top?
I think they did pretty well for having that much on at the same time.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, it was a long time between the games, right? It might have been a month or so, maybe more like 6 weeks.
They were scheming.
But even so, it was not a huge leap to go from War Scrolls to battle traits. And we added in all the battle traits, right? There's Stormcasts got to ride lightning down. There's Stormcasts got to explode. Now, Stormcasts don't have as many battle traits as Night Haunt or some of the other armies do.
Did we ever terrify them?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it was a little more simple, but
we did not.
They did add it in.
Yeah, we did not. I think the next thing we should add in is sub-factions.
So sure. I think that's a good thing to add in. I think that one of the things we could add in is, sub-factions is a good idea. Is that what you think the next step should be?
Yeah, because I think adding on artifacts and spells might be a little bit too high.
Yeah, artifacts and spells from the spell lore, I would probably not add in. Anything they have to pick in advance as part of list building, probably not the next thing. But sub-factions might be good. But actually, one thing I think might be really good is heroic actions. Oh,
yeah, because before, when their leader died, we just said overall command point.
Yeah. So in this game, we didn't really have heroic actions. What we had were we just did the command point heroic action.
Yeah.
That's the only one we did. We didn't even worry about anything else. So adding in all 4 heroic actions, and I think helping them understand the command points a little bit better. In our game, I was the judge. I was an observer. I was like a dungeon master, sort of. So I would occasionally say, hey, you can use one of your command points to get +1 to hit right now. Or, hey, you can use one of your command points to do something else.
And you could warn them that, Drake might spawn some Night Haunt, you might want to watch out.
Right. So they had that help. But I think on the next one, that might be the next layer. That and actually monstrous actions as well would probably be good.
That's why I say we add next, and then we add sub-factions.
That's a little bit sad for them because we don't have any monsters in Stormcast.
Yeah.
At least our Stormcast models. We don't have any monsters, so they wouldn't be able to partake. But I do think heroic actions and monstrous
rampages.
Rampages, thank you. That would be the next sort of layer. And then after that, assuming, everything's going great and they're still having fun, probably the next thing after that would be
sub-factions?
Stuff with the army. Yeah, sub-factions and maybe an artifact or a command trait.
I say we go sub-faction and artifact, command trait, or spell lore. One of the 3.
Spell lore is the most complex because you have to read through all those things, and then if you've got multiple wizards, you have to decide which one's going to have which one, and it causes you have to think in advance a little bit more.
I say that might be one of the highest levels.
And in fact, in the first time they do all that, I might just do it for them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, your general has this command trait. Or maybe we give them 2 to pick from and say, hey, here's 2 artifacts. One does this, one does that. Which one do you want? Who do you want to put it on? Right? Simplify the options. Because if they look at, oh my gosh, especially Stormcast have a million. 9 artifacts. I forget exactly how many, but they've got a lot.
Yeah.
And then they've got a lot of dudes. And
they have the most dudes of any army. Their battle tome is the biggest always. Because they're the heroes.
Oh yeah, I just meant in our list there's a lot of heroes. So there's a lot of people that you could put artifacts on, right?
Our lists are always hero heavy.
Yeah, that's because heroes are cool.
Yeah. There needs to be some rule that says you can have more heroes, or for each hero you have extra over, you add 20 points to its cost or something.
I don't know. Already having 6 heroes, our Night Haunt list has 6 heroes. You're already pushing. You're running out of room for normal models to hold objectives, right?
I mean, we still have the 40 chain rasps and the 20 blade guys. So.
I don't know.
That's 60 models.
Anyway, I think that would probably be the next step. And then after that might be when we start introducing things like the battle packs.
I was thinking battle pack. We
Like-
start with Thondia.
Actually,
Thondia was the most.
you know what? It might even make more sense than doing that is
Yeah.
doing the open play mission generator,
Oh yeah.
because those missions are very straightforward. They have each one has a little twist that you
Yeah.
can add that changes the rules of the game.
Maybe we could show them Warcry.
Yeah, actually, Warcry would be great. I think Warcry it's way simpler than Age of Sigmar is. It's also way faster.
Yeah.
So that's a great game to start people with. I think though that they're very interested in Age of Sigmar because of all the armies and all the different units moving around. So since they're hooked on that, if they wanted to try Warcry, awesome. But since they're hooked on Age of Sigmar, let's go down the road they're interested in.
And maybe if they do find a army they're interested in, we could expose them to different armies.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, and I would wait a little bit because as long as they're having fun with the Stormcast, we should keep on that train.
Yeah.
And then if they decide, if they say, well, what else do you have? Well, then maybe we show them the Seraphon.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Seraphon are
maybe
cool.
we show them, what else would be a pretty straightforward one?
Let's
Cruel
just,
Boys isn't bad.
Yeah.
They could do Cruel Boys.
I say we stay away from what are they called? Soulblight.
Soulblight's just got a lot of models. That might not be the greatest.
Fun thing.
Our particular build of the Daughters of Cain might be difficult as a first timer. But most of our armies, I think, should be fine.
Would Slaanesh be okay?
Our Slaanesh army, I think, would be fine. Fine in terms of they would have fun and they would be able to play it and it wouldn't be a big
Not
deal.
fine as in it squishes everything.
Not that they would, yeah, exactly. I mean, anytime, you can be a very experienced player and your first play of an army, you're not going to do great because you haven't figured it all out yet, right?
We still forget rules.
They might not, yeah, for sure. So they might not be super at it, but if they wanted to try something else, I think most of our armies you'd have a good experience with.
Because we're the casual players. We don't try to squish each other.
Well, we still put lists together that do a lot of damage. I mean, we still try to kill each other.
I mean, we still have
We're just not doing
trolls.
like in the tournament scene right now, one of the popular lists is
Purple Sun.
all putrid Puscoil Blight Lords. Yeah, Puscoil Blight Lords. So you have the whole army is a Lord of Afflictions and then all Puscoil Blight Lords.
That's what I like. I have like having one hero and then all the stuff.
You like having a million heroes. You were just saying you wanted a 7th hero.
Hold on. I want to do a mega game, 4,000 points.
Oh yeah.
One hero, and then every battle line we own.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be doing that. But then once, I think the bottom line is for introducing friends, I think that we've been pretty successful so far building up.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it, right? If you were to if a new friend were to ask you how to play Age of Sigmar, and you're like, well, let's crack open the core rule book, which is 300 pages, and let's learn this thing. That's not the way to do it. You're going to scare them off. It's not going to be good. Instead, you teach them layer upon layer,
like onions,
like
and
Shrek. Build them up. And it's not a bad idea to have a DM. Right, to have somebody who can help them walk them through. Thank you. And
he's our DM for
in our game, right? In our last game, it came down to the wire. It was very close, and I think that was actually fantastic because even though they lost, they had an absolutely brilliant time because it was just so much fun. Is that the tension just mounted and mounted and mounted and mounted, and so that led to a fantastic experience. And frankly, once they're good at the game, I think most games are like that.
Yeah.
Most games
are
really, really, really good. That game went all 5 rounds.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't go all 5 rounds, usually in round 3, maybe round 4, it gets really, really, really good. And then something happens to sort of break the back of the other army. And then
to break the back of your own army.
Right.
I've had that happen.
Then you call it and you say, all right, we don't need to play the 5th round because we know where this is going.
Yeah. We know
but it was up to that point. It was super exciting, and then you hit the end. So pretty cool. I think next time we'll do some heroic actions and a little bit more interest in the command points, and then maybe after that we'll start doing sub factions, artifacts, and stuff like that.
I say we go to battle packs as the very last thing.
Yeah, that would definitely be the last thing.
And then we start doing the same thing, dicing up the battle packs.
Well, I think we would just start with open open play,
Uh-huh.
and then if we wanted to do Thondia or
Yeah, I say we start with
Galley or
Thondia.
whatever.
And maybe what we could do is say there is one universal spell rule that says you can use a monster. You can cast the spell that makes you a monster for Stormcast because they don't have any monsters.
Well, by the time we introduce battle pack stuff, they should be pretty familiar and be able to get it. I don't know that we'll have to layer up battle packs individually, but they would just be the things we introduced last. But the most important thing is that you take it at a pace and you do it in a way that it stays fun for them.
Yeah.
So they want to keep doing it. So when we did it, one of the things I did as sort of the DM is every time they killed something or stabbed something, I would do 1 or 2 sentences of, oh, you stabbed him right through the jaw, or oh, he deftly avoided it, pings off his shield.
Yeah.
And so that, drawing those mental pictures, they were real excited about that. Mm-hmm. So keeping that going, even though the games are not short, right? They're not short games. Even at 1,000 points, you're looking at a couple hours.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Like 90 minutes, maybe a little bit more. But keeping that interest is the most important point. Any final thoughts on introducing Age of Sigmar?
I have the best way they've learned so far. They have stopped calling one unit an army.
Oh yeah, they had some trouble with the terminology at first, but we helped.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
And the most important thing is to make sure they're interested.
Yes.
Right? Because if somebody says, "Hey, that looks cool," and you just crush them, or you try to show all the rules at once, you're going to snuff out that interest. They'll never play again.
Yeah.
So the most important part is to keep them coming back, keep them having a good time, and eventually you build them up to the point where you can have real games. But you got to walk them through. On complicated games like that, you got to walk them through. All right. Well, this has been another episode of Battle Ready. Thanks so much for watching.